A viewer sent me a list. His name is Kunkun. He's new around here, and he asked me to look into a token called XCN. And then he did something most people don't. He handed me his homework. He said it came out of a company called Chain, and that its backers included Visa, Nasdaq, Citi, Capital One, Fiserv, and Orange. Now, I don't repeat backer lists I haven't checked myself. So I pulled the company's own press release from 2015. And he was right. Every one of those names is real, printed in their own announcement. And I'll put that page on screen so you can read it with me. But then I looked at the chain carrying this token today, and I found something he couldn't have known. Something that isn't on their website, isn't in their 75-page white paper, and isn't in a single video anybody has made about this project. It's sitting in plain sight in their own public API. One word. So, today, Onyx and Onyxcoin, and whose engine is actually running underneath it. So let's start at the beginning, because the beginning is genuinely strange. Pull up the company behind all of this at the SEC, and you'll find a corporation registered in 2013, carrying a former name. It was originally called Albumatic, a photo sharing app built by Adam Ludwin and Devon Gundry. And the reporting from the time says that within weeks, they'd concluded the thing was a dud. Same corporation, never dissolved. They just turned it into a blockchain company. And that brings us to Kunkun's list. September 2015, Chain announces $30 million. And look at the subheading on their own release. Partners with Visa, Nasdaq, Citi, Capital One, Fiserv, and Orange. It's right there. One correction though. The filing behind it says 30 million was offered, but 27.4 was actually sold. And they shipped something real. December 2015, Nasdaq Link recorded the first private securities issuance ever documented on a blockchain. And the company whose shares got issued was Chain itself. They built the rails, and they were their own first customer. And you will see people say, Visa runs on this. It doesn't. Chain built the early versions of Visa's B2B Connect, and before it ever launched, Visa moved to Hyperledger Fabric with IBM. So you've got a company with Visa and Nasdaq money, and a real shipped product. And then it disappears. September 2018, Lightyear, the commercial arm built around Stellar, acquires Chain, and the combined company becomes Interstellar. 3 years later, Interstellar gets absorbed into Velo Labs. And this is where the trail goes cold. Later that same year, the Chain name and the domain end up back in independent hands, under a new chief executive, Deepak Thapliyal. No press release, no filing, no disclosed buyer or price. The best reporting anybody did at the time literally says the brand was reacquired by unknown parties. Then the token contract migrates. CHN becomes XCN, and in January 2023, a governance proposal renames the whole thing Onyx. And I have to be honest about what Onyx was in that era, because creators waved this away as a different project with a similar name. It isn't. Onyx started life as a lending protocol, a compound fork, and it got exploited twice, roughly 2 million in late 2023, then roughly 4 million the following September, using the same bug, still unfixed. That's their history, and you deserve to hear it from me. Then their blog goes silent for about 13 months, and the last post before that silence is a $40 million funding announcement, which now carries an editor's note at the very top saying the article is no longer valid. Okay, this is the part I've been waiting to get to, because they came back. March 17th, 2026, a chain called Goliath produces its Genesis block. Layer 1, chain ID 327. And as of the 1st of July, the name Goliath is gone. It's just called Onyx now. And one quick thing, because it trips people up constantly. This has nothing to do with JP Morgan's Onyx, which got renamed Connexus in 2024. Different company entirely. They say it's asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant, and the load-bearing word there is asynchronous. Most chains, Ethereum included, quietly assume messages arrive inside some time window. Asynchronous means no timing assumption at all. It stays correct however badly messages get delayed or reordered. And what you actually feel is forkless. No reorgs, no counting confirmations. But there's a trade-off. That consensus needs every node to know every other node, which is why finality is instant and why Onyx runs 8 validators on a closed whitelist, with the validator program paused. They bought instant finality and paid for it in openness. Now, the thing I promised you. I asked their node what software it's running. It answers, quote, Goliath-Relay. I asked Hedera's node the same question. It answers Relay. Same product, same version train. So I called their own network endpoints, and their staking API returns a field called, and I want to read this exactly, max staking reward rate per Hbar. Hbar, in Onyx's own API. And their supply endpoint returns a number byte for byte identical to Hedera's. So Onyx is running the Hedera stack. And that software was donated to the Linux Foundation under an open license, specifically so other people could build networks with it. Using it is legitimate, and honestly, it's smart. It also means their consensus claims are actually true. The finding isn't wrongdoing, it's that they never mention it, anywhere. Now, the thing they built that I genuinely think is clever, because this isn't a takedown. On the 1st of July, they launched Onyx Mesh, built with chain. And Mesh isn't a sidechain or a privacy layer. What it sells is ordering. That's it. Picture two banks. The hard problem between them isn't computation. It's agreeing what happened first. Today you solve that with a central operator everybody has to trust. So here's what Mesh does instead. The bank encrypts its data before it sends anything, and only that bank holds the keys. It submits the encrypted blob to the public network, and the validators stamp it with a consensus timestamp and a sequence number. They order it without ever being able to read it. Then everyone runs their own logic against a sequence they can all prove they agree on. Public trust, private data. And there's a detail in their white paper I think is the smartest thing here. The network only holds that encrypted payload for about 3 minutes. So if a bank has to delete customer data, GDPR, the right to erasure, they destroy the data and the keys on their side. The ledger record survives as proof that something happened in that order, but the contents become permanently unreadable. That's a real answer to the hardest regulatory problem in this industry. Now the honest part. As of today, not one financial institution has been publicly named as using it. 0. Enrollment is open and their own use cases are labeled potential applications. So the capability is live. The customers are not announced. So what does the token actually do, and who's steering? Governance has been live on Ethereum for years, and I pulled the record straight off the contract. 69 proposals, 48 executed, 12 defeated, 3 canceled, and then 5 in my favorite category. They passed and then expired without ever executing. Look at Proposal 57. It won 495 million votes to 800,000, way over quorum, and it just sat in the queue and died. So about 7% of what this DAO has approved simply never happened. Passed and executed are not the same word, and almost nobody checks. Now the burn, because this one really matters. You'll see it said everywhere that 20 billion XCN has been burned. So I called the token contract and asked what its total supply is. 68.9 billion. It has never gone down, not once. And you don't have to take my word for the mechanism because their own governance text spells it out. One proposal says 15 billion will be burned by changing the ownership of a time lock to the burn address, making those tokens permanently inaccessible. Inaccessible, not destroyed. And then the punchline. 12 days ago, they passed a proposal to switch governance on for the new chain. I called that contract. It's alive, it answers. It's called Onyx Governor V2, and its proposal list is completely empty. Their own app just says, governance coming soon. The lights are on, Nobody's walked in yet. So where does that leave us? First, let me kill one thing that's everywhere and just isn't true. You'll read that XCN has been classified as a digital commodity under the US Clarity Act. It hasn't. That bill isn't law. And even if it passes, it has no mechanism for classifying individual tokens. No regulator has named XCN. It's not Onyx's claim, and I'm not hanging it on them. Here's what you can actually do, and it costs nothing. Every number I gave you today, you can check yourself in about 30 seconds. Their Block Explorer has an open API. That's where the 4.1 million transactions and the 1-second block time come from. One request to their public node gives you the chain ID and the Genesis timestamp. And the client version call is the one that answers Goliath-relay. You don't have to trust Onyx, and you don't have to trust me. Then watch two markers. The 31st of December, when they shut down their old Layer 3, the only hard public deadline on the board, and an audit that actually covers the Layer 1 itself. And Kunkun, your list checked out, every name. The one thing I'd add is that money is 11 years old, and it went to a predecessor company. There's no evidence any of them are here today. Both are true, and you earned both. If you got something out of this one, a like genuinely helps. And subscribing means you'll catch it when that December deadline lands. Every source and every number is in the Notion link in the description, so you can check my work rather than take my word for it. And if there's a project you want pulled apart like this, leave it in the comments. That's literally how this one happened. Thanks for spending the time with me. See you in the next one.